thank you.
Oh, sorry. I guess they couldn't hear us in Zoom land. We are live and ready when you are, Madam Chair.
Calling to order the Seldovia City Council meeting, January 24th at 6:05. Roll call and, I'm sorry, yeah. Roll call. We'll do a roll call.
Do you want to pledge allegiance?
Councilmember Sweat,
Here,
Councilmember Rojas asked for an excuse. Councilmember Kennedy,
Here.
Councilmember Swick. Here. Councilmember Peyton.
Here.
And Councilmember Nathan.
Here.
You have a quorum.
okay, thank you. Okay, if you join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, excused absence is Rojas. Agenda approval. Need a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay, everybody in favor?
Would you like me to do the?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Sweat, you're off.
Aye.
Sorry. Sweat,
Aye.
Kennedy,
Aye.
Swick,
Aye.
Peyton,
Aye.
Nathan.
Aye.
The agenda approved. We'll go to the consent agenda. All items under the consent agenda are approved with a single motion, no discussion, and one vote. A council member may request to remove an item for discussion and a separate vote. Items removed from the consent agenda will be placed under new business. Does anyone wish to remove anything? Okay, the first thing is the approval, or the first thing is the minutes of the regular meeting, January 10th, 2022. Ordinance introduction. Ordinance 22-10, a non-code ordinance of the City Council of the City of Seldovia, Alaska, amending the fiscal year 2022 operating budget to provide the necessary mid-year adjustments by appropriating and transferring funds from the general fund and water, wastewater, municipal dock, boat haul out, and boat harbor / Jackaloff dock special revenue funds and the ARPA grant funds account held in the Alaska Municipal League local investment pool. And that's on page 14. Number 3 is resolutions. The first one is 22-27, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Seldovia supporting full funding $20,160,062 for the State of Alaska Municipal Harbor Facility Grant Program in the fiscal year 2023 state capital budget. And that's on page 18. That big, huge number threw me. Then there's resolution 22-28, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Seldovia providing input to the Alaska Department of Environmental Conservation, ADEC, on proposed changes to regulation on oil discharge prevention and contingency plans. That's on page 20. Then resolution 22-29, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Seldovia entering into an investment management services agreement with Alaska Permanent Capital Management Company for the Seldovia Permanent Fund and authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute the appropriate documents. And that's on page 22. Okay, we need a vote to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Sweat,
Aye.
Kennedy,
Aye.
Swick,
Aye.
Peyton,
Aye.
Nathan.
Aye.
Okay, consent agenda is approved. Excuse me, just a minute. Okay, we're moving on to F, mayoral proclamations, there's none. G, public presentation prior notice. Each presenter has up to 10 minutes, and tonight we have Senator Stevens and Representative Stutes. Are they both here, Heidi?
Yes, they are, Madam Chair, and we are just promoting Senator Stevens, and actually Louis, Rep. Stutes might be a little late in attendance, so her staff member, Matt Gruing, is here to speak on her behalf.
Okay, Senator Stevens, are you here?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you very much for attending.
Of course, pleasure to be with you. Thanks so much for asking me, and as well as Representative Stutes. I'd be glad to talk about a few things that are happening, or maybe you want to start with questions. What is your preference there?
Ooh, I think we'll start out with you telling us what's happening with things around the state, and then specifically the Alaska Marine Highway. And then we
Sure.
can have some questions if anybody has any.
Well, that sounds great. So the good news is that revenue is up, and it's always good to see that. Oil prices are a little higher, and actually production is up as well. For 2022, the prices that we're receiving for our oil, it's going to be about 280 million. And then next year, the following year, 23, it'll be 466 million. So that's really great to hear. You know, we never know for sure about the prices and the production volume and all of that. But, there's always an attempt to extrapolate that for 10 years to figure out what's going to happen. But it's always hard to do that. Maybe 2 years is the most you get out of this to really be anywhere near accurate. But for the time being, things are looking good. As you know, our primary revenue comes from the interest on the permanent fund dividend, the 5% that we take off of that, for the permanent fund itself, the 5% we take out of the permanent fund. And then the second thing is the interest, or the money we get in taxes from the oil industry. So that's really good to hear. A couple of things I thought I might talk to you about. The PFD issue is always big. It's big here this year. The education issues that are always important to me. The Constitutional Convention, and then finally the Marine Highway. So I want to make sure that Representative Stutes has time to answer any questions or to make any presentation she would like to give. But so let me begin by saying that things are looking remarkably well in terms of revenue. The PFD issue is always a big one for us, and how to figure that out. Now we have a little more money coming in, and I can't tell you where the PFD is going to end, but it could be a little bit higher. I think we get $1,200, and then in 21, and I think you might see a little increase here, a few $100s more, but not a great amount. The difference between where the governor is, who wants a 50-50 split, which would be about $2,300 in a PFD, and then the full PFD, which would be about $4,200. So those are pretty high. And our problem is, how are we going to pay for government while at the same time funding a permanent fund dividend? So really, and I'd like to remind people that we're in a pretty good position in our state. We can pay for government services that we all expect, education, police protection, and all of those things. And at the same time, we can provide a modest permanent fund dividend, and we're able to avoid an income tax or a sales tax. So that seems pretty good to me. And I would hope that we could always be able to avoid having taxes. Education, I might talk about that briefly. There's major bills that we've been working on last year quite extensively on early learning and reading, and there's a bill in both the House and the Senate to do that. I think what we have to do is find a compromise between those two bills. There's a bit of a difference between the cost. The House's bill is considerably more than the Senate's bill, and we have to find a way to find a compromise there to make that work. We know that early reading and literacy is extremely important if our kids are going to compete in the world. The governor is supporting that literacy and early reading, so that's good, but we've got to find a compromise. The decision by the governor, I think, is very, very good to help fund the school debt 100%, the school bond and indebtedness in 2023. He has plans to reduce that to 50% in the future through up to 2030, I believe. So I know that's important. It's very hard on our boroughs to try to figure a way to cover that bonded indebtedness. So I'm really pleased the governor has included that in his budget to fully fund it for 2023. It's of course very hard. Another issue out there in education is there's a lot of attempts to raise the BSA, the basic student allowance. Hard to do this year. I'm not sure where that's going to end up. There's been inflation. We don't know how many students are coming back. Many students were at home because of COVID, and we just have no idea how many students are coming back. So it's a very difficult time for our school districts to figure out what their student count will be. I might mention one other issue, which is the Constitutional Convention. Every 10 years, we vote on whether we want a Constitutional Convention, and that'll happen in November. And the public every year for 5 decades have voted down having a constitutional convention. This year might be different because the permanent fund dividend issue is very, very important in some people's minds. They want to have that in the Constitution. I'm not taking sides on whether people should vote yes or no on that. I just want to be prepared. If the vote is yes, if that's what people want, that we are ready to provide the services needed to hold a constitutional convention and to elect the delegates and to decide whether we want a new constitution. So just so you know, the timeline is quite extensive. In November, we would vote on whether we want to have a constitutional convention. The following November, and probably most likely the following November, we'd vote on who's going to be the members of that constitutional convention. And in the following election, we will have that new constitution written and presented to the people, very complex probably. And then, so 3 years away from now, they will vote on whether they want to accept that new constitution, not accept the constitution, or accept parts of it and not accept other parts. It's going to be very, very complicated. In any event, that's a big issue, I think, and it's going to bring out a lot of people, a lot of folks that want to see various changes, whether it's to the court system or to the education system or to the fisheries or to cities and boroughs. And so it does concern me. There's a lot of changes possible, but that's the public process we have. The people vote on it, and then we figure out how to make it work. I think I'll not speak about the Marine Highway at this point. If maybe Representative Stutes wants to address that, and be glad to answer any questions on that or any other question. But maybe Representative Stutes would prefer to speak about that.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Senator Stevens? Rachel?
Hi, Senator. Thank you so much for joining us during such a busy time of year for you. I was hoping that either yourself or Representative Stutes could also address the bipartisan infrastructure bill, because that's been something that the city has been discussing. We have a old dock that's in critical condition known as the Jackaloff Bay dock. And the city has some big decisions, or the council has some big decisions up ahead regarding how to do maintenance or manage the dock. Plus our harbor also needs some critical funding. And so we've received feedback that possibly the bipartisan infrastructure bill could be great for a regional project that could include a maritime transportation. And so I'm hoping that either yourself or Representative Stutes could touch base on that, as well as redistricting and what that could be looking like ahead for us here in Seldovia. We've really enjoyed working with Representative Stutz and would be happy to work with anyone in the future, but are just looking for a touchstone on that. And then capital project funding at the Alaska State Legislature level. The city and over the past 5 fiscal years has made capital requests to the state for funding to support the acquisition of a new road grader. And after a few years of asking, the community had a ballot proposition in which they raised the summer sales tax rate in order to support the acquisition of the road grader. And so that won't be on our list, I don't think, in the near future, but just curious what you're thinking in terms of access to capital project funds at the Alaska State Legislature level as well. So 3 big things. Thank you so much for your time and support.
Well, thanks, Rachel. Very important questions that you've raised. We're just getting into that. We've got all of this money coming in from the federal government. We don't want to leave anything on the table. We want to find a way to use all the funds. We've got to find a way, though. Many of them require us coming up with our share of it. And so that's what we've got to figure out is what can we do? How much can we provide from the state level? Don't want to leave anything untouched. So we're working hard to try to figure that list out. And of course, we want to make sure that, and I know you already have sent in to us what your priorities are on capital projects. So they're just beginning that process. It'll be a long process in the city, in the Senate Finance and the House Finance to try to come to terms on what can we cover in that bill? What can we pay for? And what will the federal government pay for? We're just remarkable the amount of dollars that are coming in. And it's just going to be a very long process to figure that out. As for redistricting, that's still up in the air. We just don't know what's going to happen there yet. Whether they will leave some districts, there's a lawsuit going on. We should know the responses to that by next week. Are they going to make further changes? Are they going to accept some of the things that have already been dealt with? For example, we don't know whether there will be a truncation. The committee working on it came up with a truncated districts, and mine included. That's an issue that is still not fully developed. We'll see what's going to happen when that ends. So it's just way too early. Well, not way too early, but a little early to tell you what's going to happen in redistricting. As I look at the redistricting that affects your community and everyone in my Senate district, there are some changes there that are important. But again, that may not be the final word. The addition of Seward to the Senate seat is really important. I represented Seward 10 years ago, and it's a really great community and moderate community in so many ways. So we'll see how that turns out. We're all sort of walking around waiting for the other shoe to drop to know exactly where we are in terms of redistricting. So it could be a while. Thank you, Rachel. Appreciate the questions.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, Senator Stevens, thank you very much again for joining us, and we look forward to hearing from you again.
Great. I hope we can keep these meetings up. They're really valuable. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so do we have Representative Stutz?
You certainly do.
Oh, hi.
Hi, I just got done with my other meeting, just in time, I see. How's everyone doing?
Good, good. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah.
So I guess we want to start out with if you could give us an update on the Marine Highway for
Oh,
sure.
imagine that. That's my favorite subject.
I know it is.
Yes, it is. And it was, I just had a meeting with the DOT commissioner today too. Well, let's see. I was not happy whatsoever with the governor's budget that he just put out, because he took about $63 million away from state dollars away from the Alaska Marine Highway System and replaced it with federal dollars. And what that says to me is when our federal money runs out, the Alaska Marine Highway has no budget in the state of Alaska budget. And so that doesn't work for me. And fortunately, when I first saw that, I got a hold of both of the chairs for the Senate Finance and House Finance and told them that that budget just wasn't working, and they agreed. So we're going to, I don't know exactly how that's going to be addressed, but I feel very confident it will be addressed. It's just the wrong thing to do. Those federal dollars were meant to augment state dollars, not replace them. So that's the first issue. I'm happy to say that we are moving forward with a new testamina, and in talking with the commissioner today, I expressed to him the concern I have of making sure that however this new testamina is going to be built, that it is able to use the existing docks with very little accommodations being made to them. We want to make sure that we can use the docks we have and not put communities out of service because their docks can't accommodate the vessel. Also, he assured me, which was music to my ears, that he will be working with the skippers of these vessels to make sure that they have some input into it. The last few vessels that have been built for the state had no input from the actual people that operate them. And consequently, as we all know, it created some difficulty. So the reform bill for the Marine Highway, it's the Marine Highway Operations Board, really was successful in both the House and the Senate. You know, our good senator was very helpful in helping getting that through the Senate, and it passed the House unanimously. Did it pass the Senate unanimously? I believe so. So I'm really excited about that. We've got good representation on it. We have Alan Osterman from Kodiak. We have Shirley Marquardt, who at one time was the administrator or the liaison to the Marine Highway for Governor Walker. So that was good. And also Juanetta Ayers, who is really a doer as an individual. So I'm excited about the board and the direction it's going to go. We want to have both long-term plans and short-term plans. We have it. Let me just tell you briefly what this board does. It creates, it has to send reports, submit reports, short and long-term reports to the legislature and the governors, and make the plans and those reports available to the public as well, which is really a positive. And they have to be presented in a timely fashion. It also creates a mechanism if the recommendations of the board are not followed, which is nice. The legislation requires the board to annually make recommendations regarding the preparation of the statewide transportation improvement program to the department, as well as recommendations on the budget. So this board has some teeth in it, which will make a big difference. And this last year in our budget, we were able to forward fund the Marine Highway for 18 months, which should give us some stability in the service that we have this coming summer. So every year, you know, you get into June or July and all of a sudden all your scheduling changes, and that's always been based on, well, we don't have enough money and we don't know if we're going to have enough money. And so in order to avoid that pitfall again, the legislature was good enough to fund them for 18 months. So the design on the New Testament, I'm kind of jumping around, I know, but the design on the New Testament is probably, they said about 90% complete, but I don't think that they're that far along according to the commissioner. But it was really exciting to talk to him because he agrees about the federal funds and was even so forward as to suggest those federal funds, we should be using them to update and upgrade our fleet as a whole. So, and I asked him what he saw the Marine Highway, how he saw it in the future. And he said, there are certain areas that they think that they can deal with private public contractors like they're doing down here in Southeast now somewhat, but keep it a solid highway system for Alaskans. And that was really music to my ears because for the last 3 years, we've pretty much heard how it would be delightful if we could just get rid of the Marine Highway. So it's really nice to hear them going the other direction for a while. The Tustamina is currently in the shipyard now, and she's getting about $8 million worth of repairs and upgrades. So she ought to be a beauty, 54 and all, you know. And they say it isn't always your age. She's going to be a gorgeous thing when she comes out. And I would be making a mistake to not mention the hard work that our Senator Murkowski put in on securing these Marine Highway funds to the degree that there are dedicated federal funds that go to the Marine Highway. So they cannot be skimmed off and used for anything other than the Marine Highway, which is really a beautiful thing. As well as she was able to secure bypass funds. And what that is, as you know, our mail is subsidized. Our bypass mail is subsidized to the villages. And she got that same sort of subsidy for the Marine Highway, which is just incredible. So before I go any further, I'd be happy to answer any questions if I possibly can on the Marine Highway.
Okay, thank you. And are there any questions for Louise? Nobody's got a question? Okay, Rachel.
Representative Stutz, Rachel, the city manager of Soldovia here. I was wondering if it's still possible to add suggestions for events, upcoming events that are happening in Soldovia that the ferry could help us support. We received some pretty concerning news about the Tustamina and the service that we were hoping to have happen here in the summer. So I don't know what it would take, but we would like to extend an invite to both yourself and Senator Stevens to come celebrate the city's 60th anniversary as a first-class city, which marks this year. And we wanted to really advocate for folks to use the ferry system to get over here, but there's some concern that it may not be running when all those festivities are happening. So just wanted to bring that to your guys' attention and also extend an informal invite now.
When is the anticipated dates on that?
No dates set as of yet, but the city has been working with the Soldovia Chamber of Commerce and the Soldovia Village Tribe, and they're going to be having a coming home event tied in with the 4th of July events this summer. So I anticipate we could possibly be arranging some festivities right around 4th of July, which is one of the best times to be here.
Well, the Tustamina should be back operational by then. So just if you stay in touch with my office, I'd be happy to work with you as well as DOT and see what we can do in accommodating your needs for your celebration.
Awesome. Thank you, Representative.
You bet.
Okay, now see,
Go
does-
ahead.
Oh, sorry, Heidi, did Laurel have her hand up?
Yes, we do have a member of the public, Ms. Laurel Hiltz.
Go ahead, Laurel.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Great, thank you. Representative Stutz, what we're understanding is that though right now it's posted that the testimony will be coming back in the middle of May. And I guess I'm speaking right now with my Chamber of Commerce president hat on. We're hearing that it may potentially be that the testimony doesn't return until late July. That's significant for this community with 3 days that it comes in and out of our port. And also with the Kennecott schedule, obviously, it's not possible to duplicate that with the Kennecott. So anything that can be done as this is getting ironed out to advocate for the Kennecott dropping into Seldovia as often as possible. But in a best case scenario, I would ask that the state look at having the testamina, if it was available, come to Seldovia on Sunday, the 3rd of July, and lay over until Tuesday, the 5th of July. One, it would be a great way to include the testamina in the city's celebration as a first-class city. It would be an excellent way also to include the testamina in the celebration of Independence Day. And we have had the ferry staff participate in the parade before, and the Kennecott kitchen staff even made a spam carved Kennecott once on the 4th of July. So we do love to incorporate them as much as possible. And also it would be an available lodging and potential restaurant for the community. So I do know that a long time ago, we lost the deference of the testamina staying over for our holidays because the King Crab Festival in May in Kodiak gets that kind of privilege, but we would love to see, at least for 60 years celebration, the testamina be here, if at all possible. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate that, but I would say that's a pretty what do I want to say?
Pretty similar request to the Kodiak.
Right. I'm trying
Is that
to
what
be
you're trying to
gentle.
say?
I'm trying to be gentle in how I say I'm thinking this isn't going to happen, but you just never know. So,
Pretty
if I figure if you can even get it there for the 3rd and possibly the 4th, you'll be doing well. But to have it there for 3 days, what I will be hearing is, well, we've given up all this ridership. We're working on our fare box, but you never can tell. So I don't want to be a real naysayer, but I'm not real optimistic about it. Let's put it that way. So let's see. If there's no more questions on the ferry, I'll just touch briefly on the House majority. We have come together as the House majority, and it appears as though we are the fiscal responsible entity in the House, fiscally responsible entity in the House. We seem to be a little more conservative maybe than our minority is, which is okay. We are concerned, as I spoke earlier, about the revenue that the governor is spending. We currently, as we all know, have additional oil revenue, but the old saying goes, what goes up always comes down. And so our position is we would like to use the federal dollars to augment state dollars. We would like to live within our means, and we would like to see some of that money go into a savings account to rebuild our CBR or the corpus of the permanent fund. We just feel that it's important to save for a rainy day. So we're going to be looking at every dollar very, very carefully. And we also feel very strongly about the legislature, between the House and the Senate, in appropriating the federal dollars. It seems that the governor has that same idea, that he is going to appropriate those dollars, but we have to keep in mind that is the job of the legislature. So that's the direction that we're going. we've been a divided house, I think as it has been across the states, all the way from here to the East Coast, but we're working on it. It's been fairly successful, and I'm sure that most of you are probably aware that our House majority is a tripartisan. We have Republicans, Democrats, and Independents. We've managed to come together with a common thread of our fiscal responsibility, and we are the only tripartisan House in the tripartisan part of any legislature, I should say, in the United States, and we're pretty proud of that fact. So I guess, the big, once again, the big elephant in the room will be the PFD. We are working hard to come to a meeting of the minds. We'll just keep working on it. We don't have any clue at this point as to where it's going to land, but we have managed to create a good working relationship with our Senate Finance. So we're very confident that we are looking to get out of here this year in a timely manner.
Okay, well, good luck with that.
It doesn't sound very optimistic.
I've been known not to be very optimistic. Okay, thank you for that. Are there any questions from anyone? Nope. Okay, then I guess we will call it quits with you guys then. Thank you, Representative Stutes and Senator Stevens, for joining us. And we hope, like I said, to hear from you again.
You will. And thank you. Thank you for the invite. Nice to see everyone.
Okay,
And we'll look forward to it again.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
thank you. Good night.
Night.
Right now.
Okay, we go to public presentations for items not on the agenda. We don't have any. Committee and advisory board reports.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We do have a hand raised for items not on the agenda.
Oh, sorry, I thought it was the other one. Yeah, is it Laurel?
Yes,
okay.
Ms. Laurel Hiltz.
Laurel, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. No, thank you, Bobby, so much. All right, just a couple things to note. The Seldovia Chamber of Commerce is working with the Homer Chamber of Commerce to have a familiarization trip take place where chamber volunteers, staff, and board, and as well as Homer City staff and council will be invited to travel to Seldovia on Thursday, May 26th on board Seldovia Bay Ferry to come over for a day trip visit. Folks can have the option of staying over if they'd like, but Seldovia Bay Ferry will be donating the round trips for them to come to Seldovia. And once here, we'll host them with food and information and all kinds of good vibes and encourage them to get into the local businesses. And that familiarization trip, those types are so that people, when they're in Homer and they're engaging with guests, they can have information about what's available in Seldovia. Along the line of the Chamber of Commerce, I'm currently working on what we call a bed count, reaching out to all of the local businesses that provide lodging. And as of today, I think I'm at about room for 160 guests, sleeping 160 guests, in addition to the city's RV park and camp sites. So that's great that we've got a lot of businesses that are making things available. And if you hang out on Airbnb.com, you'll find that there's places popping up that maybe I didn't even know were happening. So it's great to see continued growth in that area. Seldovia Village Tribe had a community brainstorming meeting about coming home 2022. And we had a lot of great ideas, and we're going to work on those, and had enthusiasm from people in the community with coming up with things that they would like to sponsor as well. And so we're hoping to have more of that. And as Rachel mentioned to Representative Stutes, trying to plug in some 60th anniversary celebrations in there as well. And then just a final note in the discussion about the trying to figure out doing a mailing to the folks who are impacted by the Jackaloff Harbor. I know at the previous meeting, there was a discussion as to folks who live inside the city of Seldovia and then folks who live, I'll say, quote unquote, out the road. And, you know, what is that area? So we talked about from Jackaloff to Rocky Ridge or thereabouts. And I thought a really great way to look at that is that on the Kenai Peninsula Borough, we have 5 first-class cities, of which Seldovia is one. We have 4 unincorporated communities, including like Razdolna, Catchmaxilo, those communities. We have 1 ghost town, Portlock, and then we have about 25 areas that are called census designated places. And that ranges from Coho to the Nilchik to Fritz Creek and what is known as the Seldovia Village. So everything that is outside of the city limits of Seldovia, but around Seldovia Bay, all the way to Jackaloff Bay, is a census designated place known as the Seldovia Village. So if that helps when you're trying to identify people who live in the different areas, that is the CDP as recognized by the federal government, and you'll find it in the census reports. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Laurel. Okay, committee and advisory board reports. Do we have any of those? No? Okay. Administrative reports. Quarterly staff reports were provided during the previous work session. Public hearings, none. Unfinished business, none. Moving on to new business. Resolution 22-30, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Seldovia awarding the professional service contract for improvements to the City of Seldovia's multi-purpose building to prevent and respond to the coronavirus pandemic as requested through RFP 02-2021 to person to be determined in the amount of also to be determined. Sorry. And authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute the appropriate documents.
Take it away. Can I take it away?
Yes, take it
Okay.
away.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. So this resolution, council was provided with the template because the results of the RFP didn't time with your packet. So in your lay down, there is the final resolution, 22-30, which fills in the blanks. So that resolution reads, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Seldovia awarding the professional services contract for improvements to the City of Seldovia's multipurpose building to prevent and respond to the coronavirus pandemic as requested through RFP number 02-2021 to Alaska Peninsula Plumbing and Mechanical in the amount of $646,307.55 and authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute the appropriate documents. So if you can, please go to your lay down packet. That's the resolution before the council this evening, and included on page 5 of the lay down packet is a memo to the council just breaking down the resolution. So I'll just go through that quickly. On December 17th, 2021, the city issued a request for proposals entitled Improvements to the City of Seldovia's Multipurpose Building to Prevent and Respond to the Coronavirus Pandemic. The RFP was issued in case the Seldovia City Council elected to pursue the State of Alaska Community Development Block Grant Funds for coronavirus. The RFP was distributed to the following contractors based on their Seldovia business license registration or previous work they did with the city. So you can see that it went to 11 people, 11 firms. On January 10th of this year, The council passed a resolution in support of the RFP and to pursue the CDBG funding for the scope of work proposed in the RFP. So the original scope that council approved included replacing the inoperable or end-of-life windows, improving plumbing in the building. For example, some restrooms have one or no operating toilets. Install touchless features in public restrooms, install new restroom exhaust fans, and upgrade and possibly relocate the thermostats in the building. And at that meeting, so our last council meeting, there was also interest from the council in seeing if other projects could happen, including the installation of a shower at the fire station in support of decontamination of volunteer first responders. So on January 18th, the RFP closed. The city received 2 proposals, one from Alaska Peninsula Plumbing and Mechanical and the other from Modify LLC. On January 19th, I opened the proposals publicly with the city clerk as a witness, and both were deemed eligible to be considered. And according to code, the city manager is the city's purchasing agent responsible for procuring all supplies, services, and construction required by the city. So I used the evaluation criteria posted on the city's website to review both the proposals. And there was even a section in the proposal that stated the proposals, the firm submitting the proposal has a composition of staff that demonstrates best attempt to hire local employees, especially low and very low income persons. So that's not only a requirement for CDBG, it was also to give weight to an applicant or give more points to an applicant that does do local hire. So after reviewing the proposals, Alaska Peninsula Plumbing and Mechanical was selected as the highest ranked proposal deemed eligible for negotiations that agree to contract terms acceptable to the city at a later date, meaning we will only enter into a contract with them if we receive the CDBG funding. So the original scope of work in the RFP they submitted totaled $425,300 and included the tasks that you see documented on page 6. And their original proposal is included in the packet. Seldovia Municipal Code allows their proposal to be disclosed to the public after a notice of award has been issued. And so based on the input received from council at your January 10th meeting and an additional walkthrough done with Alaska Peninsula Plumbing and Mechanical, they came over this past weekend. The scope was modified to now total $646,307.55. And you can see a further breakout of those new tasks and former tasks that were mentioned in the original RFP. I asked the contractor to separate work that's eligible for this funding and work that's not eligible for this funding. So for example, we really want to see these windows replaced. We really want to see zone control or a way to regulate the temperature in here. For example, both myself and Councilmember Nathan just opened the windows because it's so hot in here. That's not considered eligible. Doing improvements in this space or the police chief's office isn't considered eligible because general governmental operations happen here. However, other parts of the building like the senior meals kitchen, the public library, the volunteer fire station and police station itself, and the Seldovia space, those all qualify. And so the proposal separated out the scope for doing these improvements as opposed to all the other improvements the grant would include. And it's a very low cost because the contractor would already be here doing work on the building anyway. So it's a good price for that work. So aside from separating out what's eligible for grant funding coverage and what's not, other major changes in the revised proposal include improvements to the heating system at Seldovia space. So adding zones over there rather than the baseboard thermostat knobs that are over there. Wall removal and shower install in the fire station. Installing the glycol feed system purchased by the city for the boiler room. And also doing additional improvements to the boiler room. And there's more, but just to show you that the scope expanded from what was originally proposed versus what I negotiated with them after they came here. Let's see. The revised RFP proposal before you also includes a performance bond expense of $18,000. A performance bond covers the total project cost. And that's a requirement not only by CDBG, but also a good thing for the city to have in case the contractor can't meet the terms that they have agreed to. And initially, when Alaska Peninsula Plumbing and Mechanical submitted their proposal, they stated they were insured, bonded, and licensed. But then after further consultation, we realized we also needed a performance bond to protect the total cost of the project. In addition, the original RFP had a 5% contingency fee, and I asked that they increase it to 8% because of the latest figures on inflation, supply chain disruptions due to COVID, delays in getting materials and other foreseen events. So that revised RFP is also included in your packet. And as mentioned, the resolution that's before you tonight only designates them, Alaska Peninsula Plumbing and Mechanical, based on their proposal to be the firm the city works with to complete the improvements. But that won't happen if we don't get the funding. So in short, nothing will happen if we're not awarded the funding. So that's the resolution before you and available for questions.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, George.
Rachel, can we peel off the part that would not be covered by the grant and issue another RFP to replace the windows? Is that what the plan is?
It's and this actually works in the city's favor, and that's a great question, Councilmember Nathan. The Community Development Block Grant Program likes to see local matches for the work within the grant request. So it has to be within the same proposal, if that makes sense, or the same application for funding. So the city can say, we're gonna cover that cost on our own. And in the next resolution after this one, I'm recommending to the council that you use your ARPA funding to cover that expense. So that way it's not coming directly out of the city's funds itself, but from the grant funding the state gave us. But it has to be in that same package as a match.
Okay, so the bottom line is that the person that was awarded the bid for the work that could be done has to get the rest of it as well.
Yes. You bet.
Just in addition on that, so this is considered our match, even though it's outside of the scope of the grant?
Yes.
Oh, well, that works.
Okay, anybody else?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Harmony.
Actually, I'll just figure out how I need to word this and you can answer at the next meeting because I don't know how to ask it without going on a tangent. So
Okay, any other council discussion? Well, okay, then we'll go to the public. Heidi, anybody have their?
I'm not seeing any hands. Oh, sorry. I'm not seeing any hands raised at this time, Madam Chair.
Okay. Then we'll go to the next one, which is taking action. So we will need a motion to move forward with this.
If I could just clarify that there are two resolutions. There's an original one that was in the packet, and then there is a one that was amended with additional details in the laydown. So if council wishes to pass the amended resolution with all the details in it that are needed to be included, that would be the resolution 2230 as amended.
Okay.
So can I make a motion to pass resolution 22-30 as amended? Do I need to read the whole? the amendment in its entirety?
The amendment is in the document itself, so, and it does state as amended as the header. You could read it if you want to, but I do believe that that motion will qualify.
I second.
I did. I just didn't know if I need to read the entire title.
Okay, motion passed. Yeah, we need to vote. Yeah, I'm just trying to find my page. This thing's a little squirrely. Okay, Heidi,
I'm sorry, point of order. Could you correct me? It's the next resolution that's amended, isn't it?
Correct. This one has the name and the amount put in the
Okay.
blanks. So you.
So
technic-
yes, if you could read the motion with the names and the amounts in it, that would be great. I'm so sorry, Councilmember Payton. It's not as amended, it's just with the name and the amount.
The one that's in the laydown, correct?
Correct.
So I would like to make a motion to adopt resolution of the council of the city of Seldovia awarding the professional services of contractors for improvements to the city of Seldovia's multi-purpose building to prevent and respond to the coronavirus pandemic as requested through RFP number 02-2021 to Alaska Peninsula Plumbing and Mechanical in the amount of $646,307.55 and authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute the appropriate documents.
Second.
okay, now we vote. Okay, go ahead, Heidi.
Sorry about that. Thank you all. That'll be Sweat,
Aye.
Kennedy,
Aye.
Swick,
Aye.
Payton,
Aye.
and Nathan.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, moving on to resolution 22-31, a resolution of the city council of the city of Seldovia authorizing participation in the Community Development Block Grant Coronavirus Program. Presentation by staff. Rachel?
You got it. So if we can go to the laydown packet, this is a second resolution, and this is the as amended, as the city clerk noted. So there was a template resolution put in the packet so that you could see the general language and consensus of the resolution. I have a memo that follows the resolution on page 199 of your laydown packet, and I'll just go through that really quickly. So council has expressed support in the past of the city pursuing community development block grant funds, and the council elected to pursue making improvements to the multipurpose building to respond and prepare for COVID-19. And that's through contractual labor secured through an RFP process. So the funding request before you to make those improvements includes totaling the contractor amount, excluding the scope of work for the windows and temperature control zones up here and in the police chief's office. So that brings that total to $636,208.96. And then combining some other fees that the city would incur through this project, including audit fees, city attorney fees, waste disposal fees, and purchasing portable air purifiers and HEPA filter replacements to make our complete request to the State of Alaska CDBG CV program totaling $645,568.96. And so the resolution before you tonight does a few things. It authorizes the city to participate in applying for the funding in the program. It requests a total grant amount of the $645,568.96. It allows the city to use our major maintenance and repair funds as a cash resource for this project, meaning the grant is reimbursable So we get, let's say we're awarded the grant from the state. They're like, we're going to give you the $645,569, but they don't give it to us in a lump sum. So we incur the fee, then we bill the state. So we have to have access to some cash to cover those expenses. And the city has the major maintenance and repair fund available to do that. That's actually the purpose of the major maintenance and repair fund, is to cover capital expense costs. So it's only being used to front expenses we're going to incur through this program, and then it gets replenished. So it's not that we're drawing it down, it's just we're using it to cover costs. So that's one thing this resolution does. And then it also commits the $10,098.59 of the $33,000 the city received in ARPA funds to cover the improvements of this section of the building and the police chief's office. And then that commitment only happens if we get the funding. And then it authorizes me to negotiate and sign documents, and also the finance officer to negotiate amendments or execute amendments and keep up with the scope of services based on the project. So what's next? When do we find out? So if council passes this resolution tonight, I will continue to finish the application requirements this week, and it's my goal to get it out on the plane Friday morning, because it has to be in Fairbanks by next Friday. So it's a really short time frame. And then the state says that they'll let us know in April 2022. And so let's just say we're our grant recipient and we get the 645 grand approval. Then I would work with the contractor to draft a professional services agreement that's reviewed by our city attorney. We enter into agreement with them, and then the start date is tentatively listed as May 6th for working on this building, and then finishing up September, end of September. And that's, again, if nothing goes wrong, COVID doesn't disrupt anything, transportation's reliable, the weather's great. I mean, it's the most like optimistic schedule, but it's aggressive but realistic, and looking at not only the contractor but the I believe 4 different subcontractors that they're going to bring onto this project, including bringing in local Soldovians to help make the improvements. Available for questions. I know it's a lot of information tonight. Thank you so much for your attention.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Harmony.
That is exciting. April so soon. That's hopefully we get it. I was wondering about just to tack on extra work in your aggressive schedule there, painting the exterior. This is super exciting. I've talked to a couple different people about this project. It'd be really cool to see this finally come to fruition, to see this building updated. Is that something we'd be willing to look into as an addition to what's going on inside? There are some spots on the exterior of the building that are in need of attention before they start to rot. I don't know what that would entail for your process, or if this is the appropriate way to.
It's a great question, Councilmember Payton, and I would say that, for example, the proposal includes a roof replacement, and that may be deemed by the state as an ineligible expense, because they want to look at, are you improving airflow? Are you taking away high touch surfaces? Are you creating social distancing? And I could see it being difficult to justify painting the building as a COVID related expense.
I'm sorry, may I make a clarification?
You bet.
I was not trying to loop painting the building in with those funds, but I was wondering if we could find a way to add that to our process while we're working.
For sure. Maybe that could be too what Councilmember Nathan was suggesting, a separate project. So
Mhm.
like this contractor is handling all this work for that project.
Mhm.
And then after it's done, because I don't know how that would fall into their schedule, we could look to see what funding we could have for helping paint the building or attend to the building as a secondary but separate project.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I don't mean to tack on extra things.
No, it's just fine. That's fine.
We've just got so much invested in this building. Thank you, Madam Chair. That's all I've got for the moment.
Okay,
Madam Chair,
go ahead, George.
Rachel, suppose due to your diligent observations and supervision and careful monitoring of this project, we end up coming in under budget. What happens to the funds?
That's an excellent question, Councilmember Nathan, and I would want to delay to find out if we do get it. I don't know how they would handle that. Like, would they allow us to modify the scope of work that they originally approved? I don't know. But if, let's just say during the project, there was a massive COVID outbreak and a new variant just really took community members out and we needed to make a impromptu shelter to address the pandemic, I could see that being a justifiable reason, but to expend funds that we haven't used yet. But
I'm just curious what would happen if it did come out under budget. Would those funds be available for something?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I could see the state being like, no, because we approved the scope. You came in under budget, which is great. Like, you didn't have to use your contingency of 8%. Everything was great. And we only pay you for what you invoice us, and what you invoice us has to tie back to the project. But maybe because it's COVID related and there could be possible flexibility. I'm sorry for the ambiguity.
No, it's okay.
I'm doubtful, but maybe there's a chance. How does that sound?
Thank you.
Knowing the state, they'll make us send back the rest of the money. Okay. Huh? Yeah.
Well, and Madam Chair too, we don't get the money as a lump sum. We have to incur the expense.
Oh, right. Well,
So-
yeah, I know that.
So it would just be, we no longer have expenses to charge against the grant if we were awarded it.
Okay. Okay. So do I need a motion for that resolution in the original packet?
I believe you would go to public first if we're done with council comments.
Oh, yeah. I'm a little confused. Okay, so is there any council discussion on this issue? Okay, hearing none, then we'll go to the public. Does anybody have their hand up? Jesus.
I'm not seeing any hands raised at this time, Madam Chair.
Okay, then I'll need a motion to accept this resolution. Anybody?
As amended.
I
Oh, as
move,
amended. So that's,
yeah,
sorry, that's what I was asking. Is it the one in the laydown? And what page was that on?
196.
Well, I thought
This one is 197.
that's why I'm getting confused.
Did I
guess
have the
I'm
wrong
not-
page number?
196?
Oh, 197, yeah.
197.
197, geez. Okay, got it.
Okay, I move to accept resolution 22-31 as amended.
Second.
Okay, resolution 2231 is amended, is accepted. All those in favor?
Sweat.
Aye.
Oh, sorry, Sweat. And Kennedy.
Aye.
Swick.
Aye.
Peyton. Aye. Nathan.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, moving on to the city manager's report is on page 43.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And also in the laydown packet, the very last page is an email that the city clerk received from the borough, just letting us know that so far no one has applied from Seldovia to serve on the Borough Planning Commission seat for Seldovia. So they're going to continue to advertise, and it says that the application period for the city seat will remain open until filled. So not only is the borough level Seldovia seat on the planning commission empty, but we also need planning commissioners here in Seldovia to be on our local planning commission board. So if you guys know anybody who's interested in community development that lives in city limits, that would like to influence the future of Seldovia and the development of Seldovia, as well as be part of broader discussions impacting the Kenai Peninsula, please send them our way, because we are looking for civic engagement when it comes to planning and zoning. And that email is just in your laydown packet.
Just a quick, how many seats are vacant on our planning commission?
That's a great question. I want to say
3.
okay.
Out of 5?
And you do not have to be on the Seldovia Planning Commission to serve on the Borough Commission as a representative of Seldovia. You just have to be a resident inside the city of Seldovia, but you can be a council member, a planning commission member, a community member. You do not have to have a connection to the Seldovia Planning Commission. So that's always nice to
Right.
have.
Oh, I didn't know.
Who were
that. I
the
thought you
two?
Had to be a planning
We have
member.
Allison
Huh.
Ryan as our one member who is located at large outside of city of Seldovia limits. And then Roger Forsberg.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so now I'm going to hop to the manager's report really quick. Infrastructure bill. I asked Senator Stevens and Representative Stutes to touch on it. There's more information provided in the manager's report for anyone who's curious. The bill invests $17 billion in port infrastructure. And then I also included as a brief from the U.S. Department of Transportation Maritime Administration about the funding. And through past discussions with DOT staff, I'm under the impression that the city could apply for funding for both the harbor and Jackaloff Dock at the same time as a regional maritime transportation project, if that's the desire of council. So I know we're going to be talking about Jackaloff Bay Dock very soon. So just keep this in your back pocket, and I'll make sure to update you if I hear more information. And if anyone is curious about ARPA funding or the infrastructure bill, there is this incredible website, and it's not just for governments or people who like to nerd out on government stuff. It's also for business owners, individuals, nonprofits. It tells you how the ARPA funds could support you. So that link is in here, and I encourage you to check it out. The manager's report says improvements on Jackaloff have yet to occur. The harbor master commented that just a couple days ago, the piling coops were replaced, but we still need one more replaced. And I believe Public Works hasn't done the pin work yet on the dock. You guys already saw the water consumption comparison report. You already heard from the Public Works operator that the city office water lines are frozen, which means that we do not have running water, including the comfortable use of the restroom facilities till May. And so I now have a personal interest in seeing water main line improvements on our capital project list, because the city has avoided this issue in the past by keeping our water running. And the Seldovia Fuel and Lube does the same thing. And that's treated water that's just being run to prevent the lines from freezing. And I'm assuming, old installation of that utility infrastructure. So we should get that on a list to get that looked at, because it's not an efficient use of our community drinking water. And now the city office, including people who come there for the ferry or SOS, have to send people to the Fuel and Lube or the harbor master's office. And luckily, the Fuel and Lube is letting us use their restrooms. It also impacts the city because the heating system in the building, the boiler, requires water. And so we just have to keep an eye on that and make sure that the water isn't running low in there. And if it is, bring a hose over to the fuel and lube, but it's definitely an unfortunate circumstance that happened. So be on the lookout for that on a capital project list. At a past meeting, when we were talking to council about the info brief on Jackaloff Bay Dock, there was discussion about removing a couple communities to save money, but how this mailing system works, you can't take communities out that have a zip code of 99603. It has to go to everyone in 99603, but I don't think the cost is a lot. I don't know what the cost is, but I don't think it's cost prohibitive just to stick with sending it to everyone in the 99603 zip code. And then could the city clerk please update council on the ferry? I think we heard touches of it during the meeting, but could you give us an update?
Sure. Through the chair, the Seldovia Ferry Terminal received notice last week that the Testamina would not be back in service until potentially mid-July at the earliest due to shipyard delays. Nothing official has been posted yet. There's no public service announcement yet, but it was just a notice to notify all the terminals because it's going to affect the majority, or as I said, all of the terminals that they have about the new Kennecott schedule. They've revised it, and they were just waiting feedback from all the terminals that are affected to make sure that that schedule will work. And it puts a couple of additional ferries into Seldovia from the Kennecott. So we're looking about 5 ferries until mid-July. First one end of April, 2 in May, and 2 in June. And then we'll see what July holds depending on when the Testamina comes out. So there's nothing official out from them. I just want to make sure, so that's why I haven't seen anything. They're still working on it. DOT's still working on it behind the scenes, but as it stands right now, they're not expecting that Testamina to be in service until at least mid-July.
Thank you, city clerk. Really quick too, we are out of our contractual obligations with ACS for internet services here, thanks to RADSI. So now we're pursuing spit spots, which will give us better internet at a cheaper cost. And then we didn't receive any applications for the city's intern position on storytelling, but KBBI has offered to help in promoting it through the Bush Lines or maybe even their website. So stay tuned for that. And then I attended the Chambers meeting on MLK Day. I think that was last Monday for the Coming Home event. And I definitely see great ways, and sorry, not the Chamber, SVT. And I see really great ways for the city to work together with SVT and the Chamber to celebrate the city's 60th anniversary. So Councilmember Payton and I will continue the conversation on that. And then if council has any ideas about how we could bring the city in, Laurel mentioned using the RV park or just better advertising the RV park and campgrounds. I heard a great suggestion of featuring old photos of Seldovia to show how our community has changed over the years. We could invite Senator Stevens and Representative Stutes, the borough mayor, Charlie Pierce, Lisa Murkowski, you name it, and get dignitaries here. So if there's other ideas, please let me know. And I think that is everything. Thank you so much.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead, George.
a question. Would you consider temporarily moving your office here to this building?
Councilmember Nathan, that's an interesting thought.
We could have a work session that involved actual work and probably get you moved over here pretty quickly and
It's very
see
sweet.
how you like it. And maybe you might just want to stay.
That's a great thought. Thank you. I will write that down.
Okay, any other comments or questions about Rachel's report? No, okay. Informational items not requiring action, there's none. Executive session, there's none. Council and mayor comments concerning items not on the agenda. We'll Kennedy? Do you have any comments for the council or anything? Okay. Swick? Okay, Peyton?
Sure. Thank you to the community members who attended and participated. And to this in-depth item list. Sure, this is a lot of work to shop and put together as I continue to scroll. Yep. Thank you for all the work that you guys put into these packets every meeting.
Okay, Nathan?
Well, I too would like to express thanks to the staff, especially Heidi. I've piled a bunch of stuff on her desk here lately and she has responded as always. Since I volunteered, perhaps foolishly, to be on the Let's Increase Revenue committee, I've been working with Hugh Smith about the possibility of annexing his subdivision out south of the town there. He's been ruminating on this for years. He has a real good idea of what he needs and what he wants. Initially, after a long meeting and some other running around, we've come to the conclusion that this is a viable possibility. It could happen. It could happen within our budget. It could happen fairly quickly. I'd sure welcome any input from anyone that wanted to talk about it. And I talked to Jen a little bit the other day, and she wasn't diametrically opposed to it anyway. So anyway, this would obviously increase the footprint of the city. It would incur more revenue to us. We'd get a piece of the taxes on that. And of course, when he built on those lots, forming a subdivision, obviously that's his intention. We get even more revenue. So it looks like something we could get into without a lot of upfront investment. And we also have some folks that are interested in doing some digging to help us get the water hooked up. There's already some water line out there. And anyway, I think it's worth looking at, and I'd welcome anybody that has any input, and I'll take that and keep running with what we got so far and see where it goes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, George. Okay, me too. I want to say thanks to you guys for all the information you've given us and for putting up with me tonight. Okay, and Vivian and Jeremiah are not ever allowed to leave again. Yeah. Okay, the next regular meeting will be held February 14th at 6 p.m. And need a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Meeting adjourned.